So, I know I was supposed to send you guys the questions ahead of time, but we're gonna really enjoy like kind of follow up with the conversations we had a few for the past couple of weeks. So, one, I want to give you guys a moment to both introduce yourselves, and hold on. Let's first start with Zariah.
Yeah. Yeah, hey everyone. My name is Zariah Cameron. I'm a junior in college at North Carolina A&T State University studying graphic design, and I recently just got into UX design as sort of an independent study, and I'm so excited to be here and be around some great, amazing designers.
Yeah, I'm Mitzi. I am based out of San Diego, California, and I currently work for HP. And I went to Savannah College of Art and Design and got my degree in graphic design and interaction design. And I am also the co-founder of the event, We're the Black Designers. So I'm super excited to be here.
So I first want to start off with like one of my favorite movies is the film Brown Sugar, or it's a film that I really like. And in the film, they describe one of the questions that they ask is like, when did you know you fell in love with like hip hop? So I guess for me, my question in a similar fashion is, when did you know that you fell in love with design, or fell in love with Black design in particular?
Well, that's a really good question. I feel like I have to like really think about, but I think I first fell in love with design. I think generally in design, when I remember I was like looking at this illustration poster and it was clearly digital, and for some reason I just like could not wrap my head around how that was possible. I was just like, did they draw it? Did they code it? Like, I was so curious. And that moment had me thinking for years and years and years, like, how do people put up these digital graphics? Like, do they code it or something? I was like, I want to know, which is this question that I like always had. And I think with Black design specifically, so both my parents are from Ivory Coast, so they've had like African art everywhere in their house. And I think I've always fallen in love with it because it's all just Black art. I don't think there's actually one painting in my parents' house or like, poster or anything like that that's actually produced by a white person. So I think that my mom really introduced me into just Black art and design. And I think that's where I also fell in love with it as well, because I could see myself in it. So that was really beautiful.
I definitely love that, and I can agree with that. I think I really fell in love with design a little bit later. I really didn't know that design was even an option for me in terms of like graphic design, UX design. It was something that I discovered like late into high school, and it was so confusing. I really didn't understand it could even be a career path for me. And then I went into college, for graphic design, not really knowing what my purpose was, not really understanding like what I should even be doing. I didn't even know any Black designers at that point, which is kind of unfortunate. But then I participated in like this hackathon, and I took on like this design role. And I was like, okay, let's see, how I'm not really like thinking anything of it. Let me just see how it goes. And 2 hours before we were supposed to present, I created some digital prototype. And even in the midst of like the chaos, I felt at peace and found this sense of creativity that didn't necessarily feel like work. And it was an amazing feeling to be like, wow, this is something that I could do, in the future. And then even now, like as you were saying about, really appreciating so much Black art, and I've gotten a chance to like really just get into, Black paintings and understanding what that is and understanding that culture and how it really influences design. But yeah, I would definitely say it's definitely recent that I've fallen in love with design.
And so I guess like for the two of you, you both like majored in or specifically had that experience of doing design in college. Can you talk a little bit more about so we're in a space that there's a lot of companies, there are a lot of people who work at different companies. What is missing as young designers that you wish existed, or kind of what do you need as a young Black designer from mentors?
Yeah, I think I would say in my experience with school, one thing that was missing, and I feel like everybody will say it, is there were just not enough Black teachers at my school. I had one professor, and he was my anthropology professor, and that's who I really looked up to because he really opened my perspective on everything in terms of like a psychology point of view that you could bring to design. But that's definitely one thing that I wish. And then we only had one Black space. We had the Black Student Alliance, but even then, that was just like not very well respected by our institution. And even just festivals celebrating Black art, like I don't remember being in school and Black history rolling around, and there were just like celebration of any type of Black design. And I feel like there needs to even be just like a well interwoven curriculum, because I remember I got introduced to a Black designer in my graphic design history class, and my teacher just super fast just glossed over it and was like, oh, and then there's this one Black designer, and I think he like designed a stamp or something. Don't even think it was like that fast. And I was like, I know that's not it. Like, I know there's not just one Black designer that we're just gonna skip over and talk about. Like, there definitely has to be more. So I think there needs to just be I wish there was like a more inclusive curriculum, as well as programs that really just were inclusive of diversity, because I saw a lot of, my white counterparts, I'm going to be super real, just like a lot of my white counterparts who I felt were not as deserving as, me and other Black students that were getting opportunities and chances to work with all of these like amazing, great tech companies that, they tell us that we should be going to. So that's what I thought was missing. And also, I think the importance of telling kids in school that it's like you don't have to go to Google or Facebook and all of these other tech companies that don't have a great relationship with the Black community. Like, I wish there was more encouragement on the fact that you can do your own thing and build your own empire and build your own community to help others, because it's not just about going to Google. Like, there are other companies that need help, that need great design skills that we should be going towards to help them get to where Google is and produce amazing diverse, inclusive products. So I just wish that was in my experience at school.
What are you thinking, Zari?
I would definitely agree with all of those things, because of the simple fact that, like, I went to a predominantly, Black high school, and I was fortunate enough to have, Black teachers. But in terms of design, they were white, and artists that we learned, they were white. And I think the only Black artist that we learned was Basquiat, and that was it. And so it was like one-time thing, and that was all. And even, when you think about design, a lot of people kind of, see it as a second priority of some artsy major, and don't really fit it within the confines of technology. And that's why for so long I didn't think that my creativity could be implemented within technology, because whenever people think of STEM, they're like, oh, computer science, engineering, that's the only way you can get into tech. And for the longest time I thought that was the case. And so I really wish that earlier on those type of things were implemented within my high school. And when they encouraged STEM, they encouraged design at the same level that they encourage computer science. And then when it comes to like a college level is what I'm experiencing, my school, I love my school, and we're very technical based, very engineering focused. And so a lot of times design really isn't a priority. And unfortunately, the resources, the technology, the money that is just not there. And so you're over here trying to pick up the scraps, learning from Udemy, Coursera, like all these different places when you should be able to have that access at the school. And I think that's another unfortunate thing in learning, that why did I have to seek out Black designers? Why shouldn't they already be at the forefront? Why shouldn't there already be representation? And why aren't these companies showing that? Because the simple fact that it's like, that was something that was struggling for me when I was trying to figure out UX design. I couldn't find any Black designers. And I think when companies and hiring managers and people really start thinking about giving back and how they can contribute, giving back to these design departments for these Black college students, and, giving them the resources necessary. You want great designers, you have to help them. You have to be able to fund and sponsor and, help them reach that goal and partner with these departments, because it's not all about, engineering and computer science, though those play a role, but design also intertwines with that. I think people need to realize that.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Because I remember, kind of falling off of there, because like Zariah brought up a very critical point about the funding. And so can you speak a little bit more about like your experiences specifically through COVID, and like what the experience of like being a student who's in design and not having access to the resources on computers that are not, like, what can companies do specifically like right now?
Yeah, honestly, I'm going to be very real, very blunt. We have to pay for our own Adobe Creative Cloud even before COVID. So pre-COVID, we're still responsible. If it's required, we're required to have updated software as a student. It's not included in our tuition as designers, which is also unfortunate. There are students that don't have computers, or their computers do not have the capacity to even be able to hold that type of software. You're talking about After Effects, Illustrator, Photoshop, all those different components. And, you're requesting this of a student that is now experiencing COVID, COVID-19 and pandemic. And, some of these students don't have laptops. And then for us designers, there were software within our computer labs, but now we don't even have access to it. And that software that is on our computer labs, it's not even updated. So we might have the 2018 version when, in order for us to do our assignments, we need the 2020 version. So you got to think about those things. And if we even had, that type of equipment. I mean, me, for example, I'm an out-of-state student, and I had to literally drop a class because of the simple fact that they were, upcharging me. And now I still have to pay for Adobe. And that is a requirement. That is something that I need in order to get through my degree. And really having to make those sacrifices, you're already thinking, like, I already have to put myself through school. Now I have to think about money too. That shouldn't be a problem. And then for me, going to your department and saying, hey, do you have any scholarships? And they literally say they have no money. But then I'm looking at other students within other departments. They're like, oh yeah, I just got a renewable full ride, or, through this, partnership with the company, and they just gave me a renewable scholarship. Okay, why isn't the same thing happening for design departments? And that's the thing that I need, people to understand and to get. It's like, okay, these students, me included, need that type of help and, money in order to continue on. And so that's something that I would just definitely say that I think needs to happen currently right now. Not just necessarily donating to a school overall, but an actual department. So saying if a company's like, okay, our design team is going to donate money to this school in their design department for students, specifically for scholarships, because sometimes that money can be deviated in different ways, and sometimes they're not even benefiting the students. And so that's something that can be a misnomer, that when you're giving money to the school, it's going to the students, and that's not necessarily always the case.
And so, Mitzi, like, the fact that you did the transition from like being where Zariah is as a student to now being like a young professional, do you feel as if the school provided you with the resources to make that transition? and if not,
I'm already laughing because I think we all know the answer to that.
so what needs to be done? And also, like, I posit it as like a space for welcoming the fact that like you both started spaces for young designers, and so I really would love for you to kind of like talk on that, and then like for you to be in conversation with each other here too.
Mm-hmm. So I think just even graduating from school, I think after I graduated, to be honest, felt very unfulfilled because I basically put myself in a ton of debt to meet 3 professors out of my entire curriculum and had to take 3 classes that I felt really benefited and made me really understand what I want to do. And I really hustled after school. I probably applied to over 200 companies and then 2 positions per company because I was just like, okay, as soon as I graduate, the student loans are going to come in and I have to pay them. And I mean, my school didn't really help me out in terms of connections. I kind of did that myself, and it had me really just questioning, well, what did I pay all of that money for if they're not even going to help me get a job and I'm doing this all by myself? And even to the advice I would give to young designers as well, like young Black designers looking to go in, like there are so many people out there that want to help. The mentality that I had is like the worst thing that anybody can say to you is no. They're not going to come and murder you or anything like that. Just because someone is in this just like intimidating position doesn't mean that they're an intimidating person. They're a human being just like you at the end of the day. Cold email them, be like, hey, like, can you check out my portfolio for feedback? And, you know, like sometimes I'll get no responses. That's fine, whatever. But usually there's this one person that's just like, oh my God, let me check out your portfolio. Let's sit down together. And then next thing you know, like all these like doors will open up for you. So yeah, my experience wasn't that great. I kind of hustled by myself, which I'm pretty sure a lot of other young Black designers, you know, hustle to get to the next job because there's already like a lack of mentorship. So there's not even any like comfort in the fact that you're gonna transition from school to a new job. And then even speaking upon, you know, like who I was working for, I got into the workplace, and you know, part of the reason why I did the conference was because I was trying to talk to the people at work about how they need to create a more inclusive environment. So to jump from a predominantly white institution and then a predominantly white company and then experience all these microaggressions with like no preparedness, and that's just like really, really tiring. You know, like there has to be this like gap in this solution to like help out, you know, Black designers make that transition, which is, you know, kind of like why we did the platform, because we want to provide that community so people can have a place to go to kind of, you know, just like decompress and whatnot and ask a ton of questions, because, you know, transparency and accountability is just like really important, and that's what we're like really trying to teach. So yeah, it was interesting.
How about you, Zari?
Like I said, I definitely agree. I feel like I'm in that space right now. Like right now I'm in the process of trying to find a new computer because the software cannot take it. But I am, you know, like I said, in the process of creating a space, a community, a resource, and for Black college students on my own, in terms of just giving them that mentorship, giving them, you know, the lectures that they may not even get in class ever, you know, having those open conversations, being able to have. So like I said, creating my design initiative program, launching that this September, plugging myself, but my first workshop is next week. So really excited about that. But, you know, I would need, you know, this is not just a me thing, you know, this is for students. And, you know, it breaks my heart when I'm talking to one of my friends who's a senior and she's never had experience, you know, in internships, or, you know, she doesn't even know how to look for a job because you know, her application isn't even going through, you know. And so it's one of those things that it's like, what are you going to do? And so that's why I'm creating my program. And so if anybody wants to be a part of it, if any companies want to be a part of it and sponsor, partner with me, my information will be after it. But that would make me happy to be able to help other Black college students and be able to create a space to just move forward. Because we can say all this stuff, but if no actions are being taken, then is there any reason for you to be saying anything?
Right. And I think to piggyback off of that too, is just like we're doing the work. Like the work it's just been done for decades, right? Like Cheryl's here, she's gonna speak on that. But it's just I think when you talk about like the performative actions of companies putting that black square and then like being like, we donated this much money, and I'm like, don't throw money at the problem. Like, especially with all these tech companies, I'm just like, if you look at the layers, most of it starts on an education level. So it's just like, if you're going to be throwing money at anything, like throw money at the Black students that need this financial, support and whatnot, instead of just posting that, square and doing that whole performative activism. And even now, like this whole black square and this act of like performing the fact of like solidarity, it just contributes to this vicious cycle that we're in of trending, where it's just like, and like innocent black individuals get gunned down or murdered, and then all of a sudden companies are just like, oh my God, we have to
find our black people.
Right. We have to take all of our black employees and be like, hey, we support you and everything like that. Then we have to make these conferences and have all of the, faces be black.
Are they paying you? Are they paying you? Speak
right.
Then so it's just like, it's like we need to stop this whole vicious trend of just like all of this beginning with the death of an innocent black individual. Because it's horrible, and it just contributes to the fact that I feel like we're dehumanizing these people by making it a trend, and it's not a trend, it's a problem, and it's a consistent problem that's been going on for centuries that we need to like solve. Like it's just not a facade, it's not some type of fashion thing that you can wear to please stakeholders or just like customers or anything. Like we are people that want just equal opportunity, and we have been working insanely at it. I'm like, we don't need to say anymore. Like the action needs to come from all of these, companies that, schools are just like, you should be there, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. Like that's completely fine. But it's just like, they really need to put in the effort and not even only like meet us halfway, like beyond that, to be honest, because we've met them halfway tons of times, and now the whole uprising
beyond the halfway mark.
Exactly. Beyond that, and us, like everything that's happening now is us saying like that's enough. Like we're just gonna do what we're gonna do, and we're just gonna take control. And you can be in the backseat, but at this point, we're not trying to do any harm. Like we're just trying to fight for equality, and that's it.
And so I guess we're gonna wrap up here, but I think one of the one way I want to kind of close this off is like allow you a moment to like plug what it is what do you need as a Black designer?
Did you want to go? Or?
No, you go.
For me, and this is me personally, really receiving the mentorship and the sponsorship and the scholarships, and I say that only because it's almost as if you don't get this degree, they don't see you as a credible source. And so, even if I do so many different things outside of my degree, and I'm doing all these other things, it's like until they see that paper, it's like I'm not even important. They look right past me. And so, me putting myself through school, me trying to also worry about being in the middle of a pandemic, with my family, has been like probably the most difficult thing, and so, but I think not just me as well, but like I said, this program, wanting people to actually volunteer their time or to give or, to really, like I said, invest in, Black students, and not just money, but their time, because I think time is very valuable. And, really actually saying, hey, we're going to create a pipeline for these students to receive jobs, to receive internships, to have that opportunity to, have a sustainable income, because I've seen so many students graduate, and they're literally just getting a regular, job that has no relation, unfortunately, to what they got their degree in, and their skill set might be all the way up here, but no one is willing to even take a chance on them. And so I think that's another thing that my actionable item that I would love to happen for me and for other students.
Yeah, I think I need a lot of things, to be honest. I think as a junior designer, I think what I need is, what I would love is just on-site mental health resources, because I definitely, during the time of making the conference and putting the feelings that I was feeling from work into trying to make this platform, is I sometimes broke down and cried to people about what I was experiencing, and the trauma and the microaggression. And I can't even imagine what other Black designers are feeling. And we need that mental health resource and that community to know that we're not alone, because it feels like we were alone. So that's what I feel like I need. And then the other thing that I need is just when I get to another place or another company, I would like a community within that. I feel like I need that for the sake of basically my mental health, essentially. And then also just better resources to transition from one career to another. So I would love if we could just break down these white supremacist practices of hiring people, stop doing word of mouth, because when you do word of mouth, it's like Elaine said in the conference, all of these networks are white. So when you try to hire diverse talent and you're doing word of mouth, you are ignoring a population of people. And then I would also like them to take out all of these, just technological, obstacles. I heard that, because I'm transitioning from one career to another, I heard that they actually implement bots that scan for keywords in your application. And if those words don't come up, then it just completely throws away your application, which I think, in my opinion, is the racist white supremacist practices and everything. And then I think what I need companies to also do is consider the background and the journey of someone and what they can bring to the table. Exactly. I think that someone's background and wherever they come from is extremely important, because I think that contributes to more diverse and inclusive products. Because it seems like they just pay attention to the surface level of skills that are needed, but it's just what about their background that can really, help us produce products that can, be really inclusive and more diverse. And again, I wish companies would understand, because the evidence is out there, that it's just when you bring in diversity to your teams, you create true diverse products. And when you create true diverse products, you make more money. And who doesn't want to make more money? Diversity equals profit. So it's that's what I feel like I need in order to transition from one thing to another as a junior designer.
So we're gonna close it out here. Let me give Zariah the moment. What were you thinking?
Oh no, I just wanted to say something really quick. On the hiring process, like she said, understanding people's journey. And just because you hire one Black person doesn't mean that fits the box for every single Black person. Everybody has a different experience. The Black culture does not just fit into one box. And I think when people and hiring managers start to realize that just because you hire two, Black people doesn't mean that they can speak for the entire, Black community, because everybody is different. Everybody has their own story. And so, one Black person can give a different fact that can help a product, but then another Black person can have a completely different perspective based on their experiences. And I think that shouldn't just be like an in the office thing. I think that should be at the beginning of the hiring process. Like, as soon as you start looking for these designers, you already have that mindset of, okay, let's not focus on, oh, meeting this quota. Let's focus on, let me hear your story. Let me hear your story through your work. Let me, not just, and not looking at, oh, this person doesn't have a college degree, or this person have a college degree in design, or, oh, this person worked at Walmart. Like, really actually start to listen and actually listen to what they're saying, because it might actually help you build the next best product, and you just don't realize it.
Yeah, and that kind of like harkens back to like one of the conversations Zari and I had yesterday was about like redesigning the hiring process, and like this is like, even when we're thinking about this event, and the Black Ignite that's about to start in a few minutes, is that these people are showing you their work, and like this is where recruiters, or even just like everyone here, thinking about, you want to bring these people on your team. It's not just like finding a recruiter. A lot of the hiring practices come through these like warm networks, and there's a lot of conversations. I think Dell Johnson makes the comment about like no cold or no warm intros, and getting rid of that, and starting to really go into spaces where Black designers occupy, like where are the Black designers, connecting with Zari, who's working with like Black college students to help find your next batch of interns, or find your next batch of workers, and thinking also about like redesigning like the hiring process, in a sense that like a lot of these structural institutional issues are diving deep into the Black community. So we can't control the fact that the prison industrial complex exists. Then companies need to redesign and start thinking about removing the box from applications, where you don't ask people about their criminal history, their criminal background history, and allowing people who may not have those traditional educational backgrounds or or relationships and networks, providing them with the resources to get into design and going into investing in communities. We are not a pity case. We're not looking for you to just like throw coins at us. Like, invest in the Black community, invest in inner city communities, and allow them to show you what they can do. Because one of the points I think Zari made yesterday, and can you bring it up when you were talking about if people can make things happen with few resources, what can they do?
Right. What can you do with actual resources? Like, if we're producing greatness with limited resources, what do you think we're possible of doing if we actually have the resources necessary?
Yeah, so I want to thank you both so much for being in this conversation. Again, can you plug specifically like how people can find you, and then we'll kind of move into the next batch of speakers.
Yeah. Okay, first of all, shout out to Renee from Hue Design Summit, because she was like, own your journey. And I was like, yes to that. But you can find me, well, I have a website, mitziokou.com. It's pretty simple. I'll plug it into the chat. And I'm on Instagram at OK_Mitz. But I would love if everyone could get plugged into the We're the Black Designers community, because we have some amazing events coming up. And it would just be wonderful if everyone can participate and whatnot. So I will plug all of my information in the chat for everybody.
Yeah, and you guys can reach me on LinkedIn. I'll plug my LinkedIn again, and then also with our program, we now have our official Instagram for the program, and you guys can message me on LinkedIn or on Instagram if you guys want any additional information. I can email you guys. I'll also plug in the email, so you guys can email me if you guys want to be a part.
All right, so thank you so much. I appreciate talking with you guys as always. And yeah, everyone, please do reach out to Zari and Mitzi, because they are really working on some really incredible things.